100% entertainment, 100% electricity, 100%
Pipebomb Radio with your host, Felix Olmedo.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man!
Austin James.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
And Nate Milton. Can you dig it, sucker?
Welcome, everybody, to an early edition. The sun is still out and shining bright, but welcome, everybody, to Pipebomb Radio. It is an earlier time. We do have a special guest, and, of course, we've got Austin here with us, as usual. Where else is he going to be?
Where else would I be?
Oh.
Maybe listen to Phil Collins.
Right.
Which I was doing. I tried to prepare for interviews. I have a lot of people always ask me, like, Austin, how do you prepare for interviews on Pipebomb Radio? I say I listen to In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, and it gets me up and ready to go. And I think that should be the theme song for Pipebomb Radio going forward into 2015. Maybe.
What do you think, Nate? Welcome back.
I do. Hey, I'm glad to be back, and I do love me some Phil Collins, but I will see your In the Air Tonight, Austin, and I will raise you the theme to WrestleMania 1, Easy Lover by Phil Collins in Philadelphia.
Brings me back to the Brian Shields memory. We were talking over Brian Shields, former guest on Pipebomb Radio, whose book was actually featured on Raw last night in the hands of old Saint Mick Foley. And he was reading 30 Years WrestleMania. I remember back to when we were talking about that, Nate brought up a point to actually, it was talked about to have Phil Collins actually sing that song at WrestleMania 1, right?
Yep, the theme song for WrestleMania 1, and you got Easy Lover playing, and Vince McMahon, welcome to WrestleMania.
Change the course of history forever.
All right, guys, we're going to try to give Mr. Rougeau a call. We have the wrestling legend Jacques Rougeau, former Intercontinental Champion known as the Mountie, also tag team champions as the Quebecers, however you want to call it. They never made tag team belts championships for the Rougeaus, which is a shame. But nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and give Mr. Rougeau a call. He's given me two different numbers to try, so I'm going to try both. Here we go.
Hello?
Hello, may I speak to Mr. Rougeau, please?
Speaking. How do you hear me on this phone?
Hear you very well, sir.
Okay, very
good.
Very
well,
so
actually.
Who am I doing the interview with?
My name is Felix, of course. I have my partners here, Austin and Nate.
Okay.
And this is with Pipebomb Radio.
Okay, where is this going to be heard?
It's actually being heard live, and it's pretty much all over the world, really.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Very good.
We are live now. We're honored to have you, sir. How you been doing? You been doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Actually, things are really going well. How about you guys?
I'm doing phenomenal.
And we'll just get things started right now because I wanted to touch bases about what was it that kind of got your interest into professional wrestling? Because I know wrestling has been running rampant in your family for many, many years.
Yeah, absolutely.
At what age did you really start getting an interest into professional wrestling?
Well, I was very young. I started at the age of my father and my uncle were wrestling, and my grandfather and granduncle were wrestling. So I started watching wrestling when I was about 4 years old, and it was part of the family. It was part of every weekends. On Saturday nights after supper time, it was wrestling on TV.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Now, during high school and going up to high school, did you actually have the opportunity to wrestle amateur?
No, I didn't. I never really was interested that much in amateur wrestling. I learned throughout the years a couple of moves to defend myself, and because that was a small problem when I was growing up in wrestling. Everybody wanted to try me out just because my father was a hero, and most of the people a question that would occur many times would be if wrestling was fake. So in those days, we would hide the truth to the people, and so that would occur a lot of controversies and difference of opinions. Where as soon as someone would talk against my dad or against wrestling, that would kind of put me in a bad mood.
Gotcha, understood.
I always came to rescue. I always came to rescue the reputation of my dad. I always.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you talk about your family's history. That brings up the question: did you ever have a doubt that you were going to follow in their footsteps and join the family business, or did you want to be an accountant or something when you were growing up?
It's funny that you say that. I was pretty much thrown into in the horse's mouth because. And I'm not saying the horse's mouth because I was the Mountie there. It's not. I'm just saying I was. It's an expression, French expression. But I was thrown into it because as I was growing up, and everybody would see me every Monday nights and at the Paul Sauvé Arena in Montreal and at the Montreal Forum where the Canadians, the Habs, play hockey. I was so passionate about my father's business and my uncle's business, and I guess people saw it through my eyes, and they kept telling me, starting at the age of 8 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old, are you going to be like your dad? Are you going to be like your dad? Are you going to do like your dad? And so I think I was subconsciously, I was pushed into that line of work, and I must say that I enjoyed the attention. It was fun to be. Everybody was looking at me like telling me that I was going to be a future wrestler and superstar. Because I remember the days when I was young. I used to imitate the wrestlers a lot. I remember putting a sheet on my head and being Abdullah the Butcher and walking around the place and I'd have a big fork coming out of my costume and I was having fun with that but it seems like I was doing it pretty well because I was making people laugh a lot when I was imitating the wrestlers and so I think it all came naturally. If you're like many sports, when you're around the sport and your father does it and you love your sport and you love your father, yep. Then I think automatically you're going to kind of sink into the root there.
Oh, of course. And as you got older and started to get, learn the business, learn the family business, you and your brother actually were hired by Vince Jr. to come to the WWF at the time. Yeah. You guys, to be honest, you guys had one of the most underrated tag teams because I really felt you guys were one of the actually better tag teams during that era when tag teams were red hot. But I don't think people give you the credit you guys deserve as the Rougeau brothers, your brother Ray and yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the compliment. I think that we did know how to wrestle. We had a complicity. We had something that brothers have, and it's like family. There's that extra leverage that you have when you wrestle, especially so many years that we work together. That you get that you don't only know the wrestling moves. You know how your brother thinks. You know if something's gonna change in the match, or if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, then you know how he's going to react to that. So you react accordingly, and you end up where you didn't make any mistakes at all to the people's eye. The coordination in the ring is the same thing. We worked a lot on a tag team. I always worked partners with my tag team partners in a way where it wasn't individual wrestling. It was always like it could be a gut punch, somebody coming off the ropes, and a tag before that while I was hitting the ropes, and then a sunset flip over the top, and it was always a move where it was done together, which brought, instead of guys coming in the ring and one guy does his thing and then he tags his partner and he does his thing, and I always worked like in a real tag team, and we got along really good in the ring, definitely my brother Raymond and I.
Now, you were actually, besides being a tag team with your brother, I believe around 1979 when you really got into professional wrestling, your start, GCW, I believe, Georgia Championship Wrestling, NWA. You were thrown in with some of the true greats within your first year, like Ole Anderson, Junichiro Tenryu, let's see.
Ric Flair.
Yeah, Ivan Koloff as well. Ric Flair.
Koloff. Yeah, it was awesome wrestling with those guys, and you learn tremendously with those guys because I remember I'll never forget the day that I met Ric Flair on a Saturday Night Main Event. It was seen around the country from WTBS, and it was I was a jobber. I was just going in there and doing favors to guys, and I sat down with Ric Flair, and maybe I don't know if he'd known my dad in the past or my uncle or whatever. He just had a respect for me that was amazing. We sat in the dressing room before we got out, and he was world champion at the time. and I was in there to do a special quick job for him, and we went like 6 minutes in the ring, and for about 5 minutes he made me shine, and the last minute he beat me. And I sat down with him. I learned a lot in the business then, because I asked him. I said, Mr. Flair, I said, why did you make me look so good? I said, thank you very much, by the way, but why did you make me look so good in the ring? He says, what good is it to me to go in the ring and to beat somebody up for 6 minutes and then beat him? I beat nobody. I haven't beat anybody. I beat a guy who didn't know how to wrestle. So if you go in the ring and you make a guy look good and make him look like he's a good wrestler, and then you beat him, so you beat somebody. And that was a lesson I learned when I was very young.
Well, I would have to agree with Felix. The Fabulous Rougeau brothers was one of my favorite tag teams back in the day, and it wasn't just the chemistry that you and your brother had in the ring, but to me the thing that put it over the top was Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. What was your memories of working with Jimmy and just some of the stories you guys had on the road?
Well, Jimmy Hart has been, was and is and will always be a great friend of mine. I was with him a month ago at the Comic-Con in Montreal with Hulk and my son Cedric. Yeah, we were together. And remind me to talk to you about my son Cedric later. I got to talk to you about him.
Yes, please. Yes.
Fantastic.
But Jimmy Hart, we talk 2-3 times a year, and Jimmy was such an amazing person. Apart from being one of the greatest managers of all time, always giving. Then again, you have some managers that always came out in the business and always tried to take the heat for themselves and make themselves look good. And that Jimmy was always the one coming out and making his boys look good. He was making music for his boys. He was encouraging his boys. And if one of his boys was in trouble or something happened in the ring, there was a little something, he'd come in and try to help you out. He was genuine. He was, and what made him very special, Jimmy Hart, was that for me personally, when I was traveling around the world with Jimmy, we'd land in London, England, or anywhere. Me and him always tagged up, and okay, Jimmy, let's go shopping. We used to go shop, me and him, like girls. We used to go shop, and we used to go underground, and we'd love to go shopping in the other countries, to go underground, like to go shopping where they have the bootlegging stuff. Like, I have so much souvenirs at home where I have posters, where I have all the WWF guys on the posters, which were not made by WWF. It was like somebody that really copied it, and but they were selling underground. And I got this picture where I'm face to face with Bret Hart in the front, and I'm the biggest guy on the poster, and behind me you got Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, and those little guys, But it's amazing. So I took that picture, which is a huge picture, and I framed it. I brought it home, and now when my friends came to see me, they'd see, wow, you really are important, It's amazing, And but me and Jimmy always, what was fun is we hang around. We'd go to, when we were in Europe, we'd always eat the steak and fries over there because it was the safest food, and the funniest thing and what made us made us good friends is that Jimmy was like myself and Raymond and Ricky Martel and a couple of guys that I could, Iron Mike Sharp and a couple of serious guys, that when the show was over, we'd go eat and we'd go to bed. We wouldn't go out to the nightclubs. We'd never drink. We didn't take steroids. We didn't take drugs. So we, in the morning, early in the morning, we were up ready to go, and we'd get into the airports, and while the guys were like saliving out of their mouth because they were all screwed up and from the bar last night, then you'd have me and Jimmy Hart signing autographs, saying hi to the kids, and taking pictures like Hulk always did. What a great representative of WWF at the time. So you had those guys, you had two kind of guys, and Jimmy Hart was similar to us, so that's why I think we hit it off so well.
Well, real quick, you talk about Jimmy doing some of the music for the guys. Did he do the theme song for the Rougeau brothers? Because I thought that was one of the best themes back in the day. The All-American Boys.
We're all American boys. We don't like heavy metal. We don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey, that was great. That was fun. But Jimmy did write that song, and he also wrote "We're Not the Mounties" and all that stuff. And Jimmy wrote every song I ever had in the business. Plus, you'd be surprised to see how many boys had their music done by Jimmy Hart. He used to do music for everybody, for Honky Tonk Man, for Hulk, he did music for everybody. You know, I'm sure everybody knows this. I'm not going to teach you anything, but did you know that Jimmy Hart was a real musician before becoming a manager?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was with the Gentrys, eh?
Yes,
sir.
A group called the Gentrys. Yeah, that's awesome.
My question to you actually is, as the 90s approached, I know that your brother retired from the ring and became an announcer, and you were gone from television for a while, and you came back as the Mountie and started working with Ray Traylor, the Boss Man.
Oh, what a great guy!
You guys were so good together. You guys worked so well off each other. True professionals, but entertaining as can be. Let me tell you.
So much to say about that man. I don't have enough time. I love that guy. I loved him to death. He was such a big guy, and then he was so respectful to everybody. He was so polite. He was so nice to me. He was courteous. He was a great friend. He was one of the great guys in the business that would take you in the ring, and we'd do all those the sidewalk slams and the big boss man moves and stuff like that, where he'd never hurt you. He'd always make sure that he landed first to make sure to absorb the shock. So when your body hit, and he always made sure that your body hit flat on the ground. He was a guy who took care of you, and he'd rather do a move. He was the kind of guy that rather do a move that didn't look so well, but he didn't hurt you. Then some other guys in the ring would just make sure that the bump looks good and doesn't care if you fall sideways or fall. Ray Traylor was a tremendous man, and to be honest with you, the Mountie gimmick was so awesome. I do conferences today. I speak to about 25 schools a year. I've been doing this for 10 years. I go into schools. Yeah, it's been really fun. I'm really over in Quebec for this now, and I've been doing it for 10 years. And I go talk about intimidation, I talk about the sports and the school and the cigarettes for the kids and all that stuff. And I end up at the end where I have a big mattress where I take the school teachers and the principal, and I flip them over all over the place, to give a gift to the kids at the end if they listen to me. It's a really big thing happening here, and I'm thinking, but there's something I wanted to say about Rachel, the Mountie. It's funny because when I'm giving my conferences, as I show my belts and my dolls and all that good stuff at the beginning, try to impress the kids, I always come back with that story of the Mountie. And I remember for 5 weeks in a row where me and Gene Okerlund and Jesse the Body Venture were doing the commentaries, and they were starting like, hey, Mean Gene, let's go and see back up in Montreal a newcomer, the Mountie, coming to the WWF soon. And then it was like they'd show this 1 minute and a half video where I have I'm in Montreal, up in north Montreal in the mountains there in a park, and I'm on my horse, and there's this car that pulls up beside me, and there's this girl, this guy with his girlfriend. They're about in the 20s, and they stop by, and they're supposedly two Americans that are lost, and they want to go back to the U.S. And they're in Canada right now, so they meet me on my horse, and I'm sitting in my horse with my big arrogant face there, like I don't want to speak to anybody, and so he comes right beside me with his car, and he puts his window down, the guy, and he says, excuse me, officer, and then I look down to him from my horse, and I say, I'm not an officer, I'm the Mountie. So then he looks at his girlfriend. He looks at his girlfriend beside him in the car, and like he gives a small little sign, like, "Boy, this is a freaked out cop." And then he looks back up at me very politely. He said, "Excuse me, Mr. Mountie, can you tell me how we get back to the U.S.? We're lost." So I look down to him, and I get off my horse, real snobbish. I get off my horse, and with my finger, I point him to get out of the car. So he looks at his girlfriend like, "Should I?" And then she said, "Go on, get out." So then he gets out of the car, and I said, "Follow me." So I bring him up the front of my horse, and I take the chin of my horse, the head of my horse, and I flip it up in the air like this, like with my hand underneath, and I look at him, I say, "You see this part of my horse? It always points to Canada." And then I walk at the other end of my horse, and I go lift the tail up of my horse, and the camera's right in the horses. Anyway, and I say, "You see that part of my horse? It always points to the U.S." And they showed that video for about 5 weeks around the world. And I got to tell you, when I got to Philadelphia and New York and Boston Gardens for the first time, I got thrown rocks at me when I was getting out of my car to get into the building. It was awesome, but they hated the Mountie so much. It was so fun. It was really fun.
And then they got to see the Mountie go to jail at SummerSlam 1991.
Wasn't that something, that jailhouse match? Huh? That was awesome. I hear about it so many times at the where I end up thrown, and when they all evening long on giant screen. Well, Mean Gene, let's go back to the New York precinct, see how the Mountie's doing. And then they had some segments during the evening, and the final segment when I got this 8-foot guy behind me tapping me on the shoulder. I don't even know he's with me in the cell. And finally, I turn around like to point at him in his face, but I'm pointing at his belly button because he's so tall. And then I look up to him in the face, and then he looks up to me, and he's a big, ugly guy. And he comes out, the camera gets in his face, and then he looks at me like a gay guy, and he says, "Hi." And that was amazing. Like, you should have heard the pop. That was seen on pay-per-view around the world. Like, people were saying, the Mountie's going to get tonight, boy. And it was amazing. Yeah, it was fun. It was a great character, the Mountie.
Good stuff.
At the beginning of 2014, when they unveiled the WWE Network, the first show, there's a show called WWE Countdown. You were one of the top 10 in the most memorable villains of all time. One of the top 10.
Wow. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say so. That's very nice.
You were on the countdown, right? I'm talking about the first week of WWE Network, right when it opened. And I'm like, nobody's more deserving. I mean, if you're going to throw stones at a guy when he's walking out, you should definitely be on a countdown.
He's doing something right.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. It was funny because when we first turned heel, I'll always remember we were baby faces all our lives, and then I realized by being the fabulous Rougeau brothers and the Quebecers and the Mountie and all that stuff, that's when I started to realize that, it's like if you have a great movie, I'll take a small example, but you take Batman. If you don't have a great Joker, a great heel, then Batman is not worth anything. And so you need a great villain to make a great babyface. And I remember the night that Macho Man walked out one night. He had a fight with Vince, and Vince called me in the room, and I was so amazed that he chose me. And anyway, I got into the room, and then he says, Jacques, Macho Man was supposed to work with Sid Vicious, and he walked out, so he says, we need Sid Vicious in a babyface spot, and he's a villain. And I said, so he says, listen, we need somebody to turn him babyface, and we chose you. And he told me exactly what to do, and when I walked out there, it was amazing. I had so much heat when I walked out there. I said, you know what? My opponent didn't show up tonight. I'm not leaving this building until they send some kind of man in the ring with me tonight. And obviously, I looked backstage, and there ain't none there. And I said, I'm looking in the stands right now, and I can't see much here. So I said, I'm not leaving this building till somebody shows up in the ring with me. And when the curtain opened and Sid Vicious was one of the biggest heels walked out, the people popped like crazy. They went like, oh, yes, the Mountie's going to get his ass kicked tonight. And that was wild. And it was like, and that's when I understood that my character was really, it was over then. I was convinced then that if I could turn Sid Vicious as the biggest babyface to the biggest, the biggest heel to the biggest babyface in 5 minutes, it's because I was doing something right, yeah.
Now, Austin mentioned the WWE Network, and one of the big shows on the network is a program called the Monday Night War, where they go back and look at WWF versus WCW. And interestingly enough, you went to WCW right around that time. What was your experience like going from the WWF to WCW?
It was horrible. Eric Bischoff was there, so obviously I'll tell you it was horrible. He's not a man of his word. And but the only good thing that came out of that, I'll be honest with you, is that we'd signed a year contract with them. So he wouldn't even use me after he used us maybe 2-3 months and then once in a blue moon, but he had to pay us anyway. So that was a good part of the deal. I was staying home, I was getting paid. But the biggest part that was good about that is I became really close friends with Hulk. And I shot an angle with them, and I opened the doors for WCW to come to Montreal in the Molson Center, and the main event was myself against Hulk Hogan. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm the only Canadian ever to beat Hulk Hogan by the count of 1, 2, 3. And then
you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan put me over right in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, just to piss off Bischoff because he was having a fight with him. And it was like, and I used that opportunity. It was my show. I'd rent $250,000. I rented the building in Montreal to bring him in. And I think Hulk, through the years, we still meet, like every year. We meet in conventions and stuff. And And I asked him, I said, Hulk, I said, why did you do that for me? You know, I was curious. I sat down with him one time, and he gave me a couple of reasons. He said, the first reason, Jacques, he says, I'll tell you why. He says, because for 10 years that you worked on my shows, he said, every time I saw you, you were always professional, you're always on time, you're always available for autographs, available for the kids, for people. It's amazing how you guys were good for the business. And then the other thing, too, was he says, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but when you're on a wrestling card, and I was doing main events, Hulk was saying I was doing main events everywhere, people think I was the most important match of the evening, which I wasn't. The most important match of the evening was the first match. Because the first match is where you start the people off, and if the match is bad, the people stay bad for a long time during the evening. But he says every time you were first match on my show, Jacques, he says you always started the matches incredibly good, and he says I went out there and just flipped my hand, and then people were going nuts. And the last reason was, I think, for the respect he had for my grandfather, my granduncle, my father, my uncle, my brother Raymond, and everything the Rougeaus have done in Quebec for wrestling. I think Hulk had a respect for that. But I'm the one who took the credit, and he let me win in the Molson Center by the 1, 2, 3, and Eric Bischoff fired me, I think, 3 weeks later, and but he was so pissed. But anyway, but it was a great experience, because now when I go everywhere I go, especially in Quebec, if you go on YouTube, you could watch the end of the movie right now. If you go watch Jacques Rougeau versus Hulk Hogan, you'll see the last minute of the match where Small package him, and now everywhere I go in conferences. And there's so many guys that would have liked to beat Hogan. Like, you know, I'm thinking of Macho Man. I'm thinking of there's so many guys that wanted to beat him. Like, you know, Bret Hart, Jake the Snake, all the big names that deserved before me. I certainly didn't deserve it as much as they did. But the fact that I did beat him, now it's like it brought me up to a. I'm trying to find the word in English. It gave me an important status in the eyes of the boys and the eyes of the fans. Like, hey, Jacques Rougeau beat Hulk Hogan. Wow! So that gave me a lot of credibility in the eyes of a lot of people.
Now you mentioned,
and you actually
Hulk
got
Hogan.
the chance to work with Carl. And you guys formed the Mounties with what was his name? Scotty Flamingo.
Pierre Carl Ouellet.
Johnny Polo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Johnny Polo, yeah. We worked as the Quebecers, not the Mounties. The song was "We're Not the Mounties," and but we were the Quebecers, and that was amazing too. That was great, because the first night we came together on the 13th of September in '93, we walked into Raw against the Steiner brothers, which were champions, and we took the belts the first night we came in. The first night we walked in, with no one had ever seen us, except that I had told Vince. He'd been talking with me. I had a ring set up in my backyard in Montreal, and I told these guys, I told Vince, I said, you know me? And I said, I'm just telling you right now, Vince, we're going to bring something different to the WWF, the Quebecers, with our big moves we used to do and our tag team moves that we used to do, and it was a great run. But to my surprise, when we got into in New York the first night, it was like he said that he was giving us the belts. I fell off my chair. It was like I didn't expect him to give us that opportunity, and so that was a wonderful time. I made sure to take a picture that night. I sent it to all the Montreal papers everywhere to make sure that they showed it to all my fans, and it was like so. I was lucky in the business. I even was the night that I beat Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title. I won't forget that. That was in Springfield, Massachusetts, and 2 nights later I lost it to Rowdy Piper at a pay-per-view. But for 2 nights I was Intercontinental champion, and those 2 nights I think I sent a picture to every photographer around the world just to make sure that they all knew I'd become champion, you know. but that was a great time, you know, and I got plenty of pictures of it in my basement. So when people walk in my basement now, they see all these belts. They don't know I just had it for 2 nights, you know. But yeah, it's fun. It was good. I had some good times. Yeah.
All right, Austin, you had a question too. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Austin, are you there?
Yeah, I can't hear him either. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Then my next question. You mentioned talking about your son. I noticed your son he is a wrestler as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, for 5 years. My 3 sons wrestle, actually. And nice. I got 3 sons that wrestle. One that retired 2 years ago. He's going around the world just visiting the world with his girlfriend and his guitar. He's just living the kind of I don't know how to call those people that they find a job when they get in the country and they live off playing. He plays guitars in the street, and he's living the real wildlife, almost like a vagabond, but he's doing so good. He goes into a restaurant. He just came back from Asia. He went to Europe. He went to now he's in South America. He's traveling. He's just seen the world. It's amazing. And my two younger sons, they're wrestling on my shows now. By the way, if anybody wants to see everything I'm talking to you about, JacquesRougeau.com. You could go see everything I do. JacquesRougeau.com. Oh, yeah. But my son, my younger one's 14 years old. He started at the age of 9 years old. I had a little kids match. And he's been wrestling for 5 years. And my other son, who's 21 now, and you go see Cedric Rougeau, because you will hear about him, because Hulk fell in love with him at the Comic-Con. He just fell in love. My son is 21 years old. He's 6'6.5", and he's 304 pounds. And he's a monster. Wow. He's bigger than Hogan now, and he's bigger than Hogan when he was 20 years old. He's just a monster. I'm not even sure I'm the father, but anyway, the bottom line is I have the same blood type. That's a good sign. But to be honest with you, he's a monster. If you go see the pictures on JacquesRougeau.com, he's so huge and big. He's the size of his shoulders. It's incredible. It's incredible. So he's wrestling with me tag team now on my shows, and we're just tearing Quebec apart now. I don't know if you know about my shows, by the way. Did you know about my family shows?
I knew that you were a promoter as well as you still wrestle from time to time throughout Montreal, and I definitely I've been seeing that you do still wrestle, and that's very good. I think definitely.
Let me explain to you what I'm doing. I'm sorry too. I'm so excited here. Let me explain to you what I'm doing. I started a business 10 years ago. It's called the Spectacle Familial Jacques Rougeau. It's like the family Jacques Rougeau's family show, and it starts from the age of the people that come to see my show. They're 4 years and older. They go from 4 to 104 years old, and in my shows, there's no kicks, no punches. There's no girls in my shows. There's no sexual connotations. There's no beer sold at the arenas. It's all based on high-flying acrobats and a lot of humor, like clowns. I got midgets. I got Spider-Man. I got the Giants. I got the Mummy. I got the Zorro. I got all kinds of personalities, and my son's wrestling on that show. And it's part of my non-violent movement that I've been doing in 10 years in Quebec. And believe it or not, I do 5 shows per year, not more than that. But the shows that I do, it's in front of 4,000 people in every arena across the province. Wow. And 3 months before my shows, everything is sold out. Everything is sold out. If you go on my Jacques Rougeau, if you go on JacquesRougeau.com now, I got 2 shows coming up on the 27th of December. That's Thetford Mines. It's 4,000 people. It's been sold out for 3 months. I have Verdun on the 28th of December, which Verdun Auditorium is a big place for wrestling for the last 50 years, and it's sold out from about 3 weeks ago. That's sold out. So all my shows are sold out. It's all families that come, grandparents and little kids and parents, and it's more like a Walt Disney kind of show, And it's amazing. There's no sex, no drugs, no violence, and it goes with the conferences I give in the schools. And so I have believe it or not, I got a great image right now. It'd be a good time for me to go for a mayor now. Mayor of Montreal would be a good time for me.
Why not? Yeah.
Because I don't like politics. In politics, they don't always say the truth in politics, and that's been my problem all my life. I always said what I thought, and I always told the truth. So I wouldn't be a good politician, I think. Yeah.
For me, I think it's I'm against picketing, but I really don't know how to show it. If that makes any sense. But I was actually.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say WrestleMania 3, the Silverdome. You were a part of that spectacle. And I guess spectacle is an understatement. Most definitely, you were there for the
93,000 people. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. But you were in the matches beforehand. But you had you were defeated by Greg Hammer and Bruce Beefcake. But how was that live? The atmosphere? I can't even begin to ask you about this question. There's so much that entails into it.
Did you really have to say I lost? Anyway, long story short, it's because of Dino Bravo he turned on us. But anyway, long story short, it was amazing because we were that's one of the few times in my career I can honestly say that I had dry mouth before hitting the ring. It was 93,000 people. We had a golf cart bringing us to the ring. It was so far away, and there was so much hype. there was so much hype for that show. It was incredible. Like 2 days before the event, we were signing autographs, meet and greets, conventions, and we were going all around the place. I think wrestling was at the hottest then at that time for us at WWF. It was an amazing, even coming in by bus into the building, and just everything that happened there was so precious. The magazines, it was amazing, and that match with Hulk and Andre the Giant, who made history. I'm glad, because for a long time, I don't know if it still stands, but for many, many years, it was the biggest indoor event that ever existed for any kind of event. Any kind of sporting event. So I was part of that. It was amazing. It was, I guess, what happens is, we were in a wave by then since 1985 when I started, and we got into the limousines and the big stuff, and we didn't realize what was going on because we were on the road for like 25 days a month, and we were traveling from one country. One night I could be in Los Angeles, the next night I was in Miami, the next night I was in Paris, France. We were traveling like that 5, 6, 7 hours of flying every day, and it was like I always remember, because people in my career were saying, "Wow, Jacques," when I'd come home like 5 days a month to see my kids only, and then it was like, "Wow, it must be great to travel like that to see the world." But the truth is the only thing you'd see was your hotel room, your rent-a-car line that you're standing in to get your car, and then your hotel room line to get your hotel room, and then your tanning salon, and then your gym, and then your restaurants, and then your bed, and then you start over at 4 o'clock the next morning to bring your car back. It was horrible. It was horrible. Yeah. But the best time of all that is when it was done. Is when all the books and the cards and the posters and the magazines and everything was framed downstairs in my basement, and then the award starts coming in and the recognition. That is the good time of my business. Yeah.
Absolutely. Jacques, right now I am looking at a picture of your son, and as Jim Ross would say, this kid is a hoss, man. He's a big dude, and I think he's going to have a great future ahead of him. And that makes me want to ask you about another young man who you influenced, and you've had a great impact on his career, and that's Kevin Steen. Can you tell us a little bit about Kevin? As I think, a lot of us independent fans know about him, but I think the mainstream is just getting ready to find out what Kevin Steen can do.
Yeah, I think that Kevin Steen, well, when he was with me, he came to my school, and he started from scratch, and I think what made him a good wrestler was the fact that, and a lot of my students that are still with me, that were with me from 14, 15 years ago, is because there's something I could tell you about my wrestling school, because I have my wrestling school every weekend, and it's like, they have an expression in French, I don't know if they say it in English, but before you run, please finish my sentence. Before you run,
you must walk.
Yeah, well, in my school, it's not like that. Before you run, before you walk, you crawl. When a baby comes out, it crawls, and then it starts walking, and then it starts running. So when they come to my school, they don't start running in the ropes and flying and this. No, I teach them the basic moves and the steps. And wrestling is like a dance. And if you go back in the old timers, they knew how to do a hip toss where the feet were together, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and every move and every basic thing. Not a lot of people. I'll give you an example just to see how professional you could tell a really good worker from the old generations. I'll give you an example. Here's a secret from my school that I've kept, that my father taught me and came from many years ago, is when a guy takes a guy and he throws him in the ring, whether it's a body slam or a backdrop or anything, that you have to teach a guy when he lands to let all the air out of his lungs, because it's important, because otherwise that's where you have an expression like sometimes when people say, "Oh, I lost my breath." Well, if you don't have any breath, you don't lose it. So the bottom line is when a guy takes a bump, he has to empty his air. So before he falls, he's got to... So when he has no more air in his lungs, when he hits the mat and the impact, and then as soon as the impact's hit, you bring your air back in, and you never stop. You never have any problem continuing. And it's just a small trick of the old-timers that when you learn the really basic of wrestling, before you start running and walking, you start crawling. And that's what I think Kevin Steen had a chance to be with me in my school, and a couple of other guys like that I've helped out in the business, and that's going to make him a good wrestler. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time, to be honest with you. The only handicap he has is he's not a tall guy. He's not a tall guy. He's not a big guy. But I haven't seen WWF in so long, or WWE, that I don't know how the guys are. But I'm just saying, I can't imagine a guy like Kevin Steen going up against the Giant, or going up against I don't know, a bigger wrestler today, Undertaker. But I tell you one thing, Kevin Steen, I'm sure that he could be a great undercard. For he's got talent to do it, and that's for sure. And to see what kind. The other thing too now, it's going to depend on him, because there's two kinds of people in life. There were the Rockers, and there were Jimmy Hart and the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, and the Jimmy Hart and the Fabulous Rougeau brothers went shopping, and the Rockers went out flying and having fun at night with the girls. So it depends. It depends what kind of life he's going to take, and that's a big. It's something so important that if you want to make it in the big leagues, you must be disciplined, and if he's disciplined, he has a good chance of making it.
My final question for you before we go ahead and let you go, Mr. Rougeau, is so let's just say next year comes around in January and you receive a call from, of all people, Vince McMahon, and he says, Jacques, I want to put you in the Hall of Fame. Do you accept?
I definitely would accept.
Because if there was anybody that deserves it right now, it would definitely, you're one of the candidates that deserves the Hall of Fame as well as your brother.
You're very kind, but I would definitely, and I don't, it's something that I don't wake up in the morning and I wish for, or that I'm expecting, or I'm hoping for. But to be honest with you, in the real far back, if I don't deserve it, the family name deserves it and the Mountie deserves it. But to be honest with you, it would be a great honor. And you may be surprised to see in the next year or two. You may see my son also. My 304 pounds. He's 21 years old.
I'm sure Vince would love him.
He's in the ring. We're in the ring like 4 hours a week, just practicing. And he's amazing on the basic, on the high flying. He does the flips. He does the back flips. He's going to be very special. When I'm finished with him in about 6 months from now, Hulk asked me to prepare him, and I'm going to prepare him. And whatever happens, whether he goes or not to the big leagues, here in Quebec, he's going to be a big idol in Quebec.
Oh, of course. And that's all that matters at this point. Go ahead, Austin.
I usually say this quote towards the end of this. It's, why live a life if you don't at least do something remarkable? And you have done something so remarkable with your life that not many people will go out and do. Accomplish. You've accomplished so much in your life, and it's amazing to be talking to a person with your honor and just everything about you, man. And I respect you so much.
You're too kind. Yeah, thank you very much. You're too kind. Now, thank you all for the interview, and send everybody to CJacquesRougeau.com. Look out for my son, Cedric Rougeau, in the near future. And if ever you come to Quebec, come and see one of my events. The guys are so talented, and I'm the producer of the show, and I could guarantee you it's awesome, the shows. People are really having a lot of fun.
And, Mr. Rougeau, I definitely want to say on behalf of myself, Austin, and Nate, it's an honor. And we hope that maybe in 2015 sometime we'd love to have you come back, maybe do a part 2, and tell us how everything's going with your shows and your son, and if you got some more road stories you'd love to share.
I think I've told you everything.
Oh, okay. If there's something new that you want to talk about, definitely we'd love to have you back if the time is right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But in the meantime, we wish you the best, and again, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Now I'm going to take 2 minutes of my time. I'm going to go get myself a nice glass of water, maybe a little popcorn, and I'm going to go sit in front of the Montreal Canadiens that are going against Vancouver tonight to watch the hockey game.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
So you guys have fun, and we'll see you down the road.
Good night, sir.
All right. Have a good night, sir.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. There you have it, folks. The one and only wrestling legend out of the legendary Rougeau family, Jacques Rougeau. He's not the Mountie, but he's an all-American boy.
Yeah. that was
fantastic.
The highlight for me. Just that hearing Jacques Rougeau sing the All-American Boys theme song, like that's it right there. Like I can retire now.
Me too. That was awesome.
Yes. That was a lot of fun, and he had so much enthusiasm about talking about all the memories he's had, and that kind of attitude he had it makes those interviews a lot more enjoyable to listen to, because he looks back and you can seriously hear in his voice he has no regrets, and he's so proud of his sons now moving in the next generation of Rougeau doing big things, and you know, he's out there still wrestling, so he's definitely taking care of himself, and that's good. It's amazing, and absolutely, I would love to have him come back again, and who knows, maybe he'll promote another show or have more stories to tell, and because we touched on a lot today. Hopefully, we'll leave some room for part 2 down the road.
He's definitely a blackjack. That's a statement.
Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned. Oh,
I was going to say real quick, Austin, the crazy thing is, Jacques debuted in 1977, and he's still wrestling now. I was born in 1977, so this man has been wrestling literally as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. And you know, what's cool about the situation is that, I mean, the Rougeau family is one that will never be forgotten about. I mean, one of the best families in professional wrestling history. But there is a family that many people, and I know, Nate, you're a fan of. I know, Felix, you're a fan of. I know, Austin, you're a fan of. Oh, exactly. Anyway, next week on Pipebomb Radio, we're returning. Let me get my words right here. Next week on Pipebomb Radio, a Pipebomb Radio legend is returning, Kevin Von Erich. Those three names in that, you know, within that caliber, people know, it rings a bell. I remember last year, around this time, actually, or a couple months before him, Kevin was on the show, and I cannot even describe, you can ask Phil to this, it was the most craziest week I've ever been alive in my life. Probably, if I haven't heard so many ding-dongs in my life, I'm talking on hearing the phone cell, the notifications on my phone when every single time somebody joined the invite to the show. Every single time you heard an invite to the Kevin Von Erich show for Pipebomb Radio, heard this ding. And I mean, it was every single second. I'm not kidding. You talk to Felix about this.
That's when we learned never set up one of those events on Facebook ever again. Those of us who want to listen to the Kevin Von Erich interview, just follow Facebook. We'll update you. We'll tell you. But we will never, and I mean ever, make an event like that again. That was so annoyingly ridiculous. Not going to happen.
No, there's a reason for that. But Kevin Von Erich, you know, he's the man stand. But when they make an event, asking people to come and listen to the show, there's a lot of people that want to listen to that show.
Dude, every time somebody actually was going to say they were going to attend the event or like an event or did anything, beep, 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 and myself and Kevin's agent at the time, we were so annoyed. She said, please just end this event. End it. I said, you know what, just tell people to come to the Facebook page, and we'll update them as much as they want. If they have questions or whatever, send them to our page. We'll deal with it. She was annoyed. I was annoyed.
Crazy.
I didn't want to lose Kevin as a guest. I talked to Kevin a couple weeks ago. He's excited. He's definitely ready to come on. He says anytime we'll have some fun. And being that you're a fan of the World Class Days, Nate, I know this is going to be one hell of an interview for you.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. It's early Christmas present for me, but yeah, this is going to be very cool. I wasn't on the show when you guys have talked to Kevin in the past, and you know, this is going to be very cool. I think one of the coolest things that has happened in recent years was when Kevin and his son showed up at the Slammiversary pay-per-view for TNA, and they had that great spot where Kevin hopped in the ring and applied the claw, and it really was one of TNA's highlights of the year. So I can't wait to talk to Kevin about that, and also, of course, you know, those great world-class days from the Sportatorium.
You know, at this point too, you know, the month of December really has had some of the more enjoyable interviews we've done really in quite some time. And I'm not saying taking anything away from anybody we've talked to over the last several months or over the last year. But you know, I noticed that it just seemed like the December ones, as we're closing out the year, they seem to be much more enjoyable, a lot of fun, always laughing, and don't want it to end.
Because it's the holidays.
I hated having to cut off Mr. Rougeau, but you know, he's got a life, we got a life, we got to let him get back to his. And my gosh, every now and then, when I talk to people that are not in this country, Julie Hart, you know, even Jacques, I want to visit Canada. I want to go to Quebec. You know, I want to go to that one place that we had. What was his name? That Santino place that he owns. What is the name of the gym there?
Mississauga, Ontario. That'll work.
Yeah, Ontario. It's in Ontario, but that's Santino's gym. that he has out there, because we had this partner on the show a year and a half ago.
Stephen Wong.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know,
and he did
cool
say,
Canada,
I got a message from Mr. Rougeau. He said to say thank you guys so much. He'd really had a lot of fun, and once the interview's over, he'd love for us to post it on either mine or yours, Austin. Do you follow him on Facebook, Austin?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
yes,
then you can either share it on yours or mine, and he would share it on his page.
But you know what's cool about Canada? And I've always, you never hear anything bad about Canada. You always hear stuff about the United States every single day. I mean, almost every single second of the 24 hours. But you never
that would explain why a lot of people are leaving the
Canada.
country.
And I'm going to do it in a couple of years, without a doubt, Jacques. Me and Santino are going to have a nice time with Stephen Wong, Wongamania, in Mississauga, Ontario. But you never hear anything bad about Canada. And I wonder why, because the people there, just speaking to Mr. Rougeau tonight, he's such great spirits.
You could tell in his words, he spoke with such pride. You don't hear that very often. I mean, you do, but it's just something that it was different about the way he was speaking to us, that he had just a different tone. It's almost like he was just talking to some friends and catching up, that he hadn't talked to in such a long time. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed myself, and I hope you guys did too. I'm pretty sure you guys did. But with that, we've got a wrestling legend coming back, and Lord have mercy on our phone lines, because they're going to blow up. I just hope they don't blow up, like literally. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be a lot of people. I want to talk to Kevin. Why didn't you let me talk to Kevin? We had somebody so mad at us that we didn't let him talk. I mean, he forgave us, but he put a guilt trip on us like nobody's business. I'm not going to mention any names, but Austin knows who I'm talking about.
Oh, I know, and the thing is, I'm gonna mention her too, Claudia.
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about him, but that's okay.
Oh yeah. No, I'm talking about it.
But no, Claudia's fine. She's a sweetheart. I love her to death. She has so much love and respect for the Von Erichs. They're like her. They adopted her into their family.
Yes, exactly. They changed her last name instead of the Claudia Bacon Tonica. It's going to be Claudia Von Erich. That's what it is. But through and through, it's all she posts on Facebook. I mean, besides her family and everything, and she ends every single one of her rants on Facebook with "Carry on." You get it? Carrie Von Erich. It's just, she's awesome. She's going to help us out, and she helped us out a ton last year for the Von Erichs, and when we had Kevin's boys on Ross and Marshall. And I just know without a doubt it's going to far exceed what we did last year, and it's going to be just an over-the-top event that no one will ever forget in Pipebomb radio history.
And not to mention, we've got one more week of interviews. We do our best of show. That's the one I always look forward to, because you get to look back on some of the great interviews we had in 2014. That was like a highlight for me in 2013 last year, because we had such a who's who last year. Not saying we don't this year, but man, that was our first year, and my God, we went out with a frickin' bang.
Now I got to tell you this. Actually, when it's live and everything's ready to go, the best of show is the best thing of all time. But when you have to pick out of the guests we've had last year and make it to 10 or 15, I don't know what it was the hardest thing you can ever do, ever. Because trying to name who's your best guest of 2014 and 2013 was difficult. And that's an understatement. It's going to be an understatement for this year, because we've had some guys on.
And for those who haven't heard a lot of the interviews, definitely check them out on our website. It is pipebombradio.net. You check out all the past interviews going back to the early part of January 2013. In the meantime, if you guys want to call in and ask any questions or anything like that to us, we're going to hang out for just a little bit longer and talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw, the Slammies, and get everybody's idea about how the go-home show was for TLC. And let me give you about the number really quick. The number to call in, if you do, it is 347-202-0399. I'm sorry, you had a comment, Austin? Go ahead.
Absolutely, I have a comment. It's not TLC anymore. It's tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. Don't forget about it.
I think that's kind of cheesy, but with the way things have been building up between Show and Big Red, yeah.
Oh my God! Did you just say it was cheesy? Let me just say, if you get hit in the face with a steel steel chair or a ladder or a table or some stairs, it doesn't taste like cheese.
You're such a spaz. My goodness.
Guys, let me throw a turn in your face and see how it tastes. I don't think steel tastes too good when it hits your teeth.
I'm just saying the title is cheesy. You must be hungry because you're talking about eating something. I never mentioned anything about food. I'm saying that it's the name itself. It's corny. It's cheesy. It's silly, but I get it. That's all.
That was the point.
Well, we do have a caller on the line here, looks like. It is from area code 843. I'm going to go ahead and bring you on. You're on with Austin, Nate, and myself. How you doing? And what is your name?
I'm doing. This is Tim Wadner.
How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing pretty good.
Were you able to listen to the show tonight?
I listened to. I started listening about 30, 40 minutes into it because I had to cook dinner. My wife made me cook tonight.
Now, did you enjoy the stories from Mr. Rougeau?
Yeah, the parts that I got to hear from Mr. Rougeau was awesome. Actually, I'm in the business. I've been in the business 3 years, and I watch all the older stuff like him and study it. So
of course. And so did you have a question for one of us as well? I mean, I know that you had mentioned that you wanted to call in and talk about something that is near and dear to your heart, so I'll let you go ahead and do that real quick if you don't mind.
Well, yeah, on March 21st, there's going to be a show called Seek and Destroy Cancer for the Fibromyalgia Cancer Foundation. All proceeds goes to them. We got Jesse Neal, Steve Carino, top of my head, Angelina Love, Gunner, Ronnie and Amy from Lizalek, Earl, Chris Hamrick, Ricky Morton, Barbarian, and a lot of local talent. There's like 5 promotions that combined into one roof to put the show on for the foundation.
And that's a very good cause to do it for, if anything.
Oh, yeah. And the very first match that we got has already been released is Jason Neal versus Steve Carino.
It's going to be a good match.
That's going to be interesting, too, because Steve Carino definitely has a background in professional wrestling, as does Jesse Neal. Right.
They've never been in the ring together. Steve Carino, he actually wrestled the Dudleys, which is one that trained Jesse Neal. So they've never been in the ring together.
I actually thought that Steve Carino was all but pretty much retired. I didn't know he still wrestled, to be honest.
He actually wrestles up in Hubert, North Carolina. He actually owns Premier Wrestling Federation, or PWF.
Oh, okay.
And they're actually
part
of the. He actually the PWF is actually part of the show in March.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Definitely wish you the best of luck on your show, and hopefully you keep listening to our shows if you like anything, even though we were bringing in Kevin Von Erich next week, and we had Jimmy Corderas on last week.
Yeah, I just started listening to because I just added Flex on Facebook, and I've been friends with Austin on Facebook for a while, so I just figured I'd just pop it on and listen to it today, and it's my first show listening, so it was great.
Awesome. We appreciate that.
Fantastic.
We wish you the best, and definitely, as the show gets closer or after the show, definitely give us an update on how it went, and we'd love to hear more about it as we get after the show, of course.
Right. Well, they can find it on Facebook. It's Seek and Destroy Cancer. Well, it's facebook.com/Seek and Destroy Cancer. And Twitter, I believe, is capital S, capital D, Destroy Cancer. That's on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They can find either or, and they can buy tickets right now. Tickets are only available through PayPal.
Okay.
With Seek and Destroy Cancer at gmail.com. But Destroy is spelled DSTORY. That's how Gmail gave it to us. So I know it's spelled, the O and R is swapped, but that's why Gmail did it.
Understood. Well, Tim, I appreciate you calling in, man, and thank you for being a listener. We hope you continue to listen to our shows, and as I mentioned, best of luck to you on your show as well.
All right, I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
You too, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. That's a nice, every now and then do shows like that for a good cause. I encourage it. That's definitely a good cause. I mean, cancer is something that doesn't ever seem to go away. And it's something that I don't know if people have found a cure for it or not, because when I think of cancer, automatically I'm thinking of Bobby Heenan with his throat cancer, because he was one of my all-time favorites. He's one of the people, the characters that are near and dear to my heart, because, what can I say, I'm a humanoid. I'm a ham and egger.
Same here.
But speaking about Monday Night Raw, the Slammies, I was happy with a lot of the awards, but I wasn't happy about one. I understand why they did it, but I didn't want to be reminded of it. The OMG moment of the year, really? I didn't really need to be reminded of something that was probably the darkest day in WWE history.
Wait,
Shut
you
up,
remember
Austin.
too?
Shut up, Austin. I knew that was coming.
Let me clue you in. The OMG moment of the year last year, last time on Monday Night Raw, the Slammy Awards, was given to Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 31. If you forgot, I'm sure Nate, he has a great memory. But Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Just saying,
I thought it was WrestleMania 30, not 31.
That's what I said. I said 30.
You said 30. 1.
I know I said 30. Thank you.
1. Shut up.
Just reminded me.
I caught myself there. I realized I said 30, and I was trying to say 31.
Exactly. See, your memory doesn't serve you well. I'm just here to be the guy that helps you remember certain things, just like, Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30.
I have a good comparison for Brock. Darren Young, he's referred to as Mr. No Days Off. Well, Brock Lesnar is Mr. I'll come in when I feel like it. He don't come in at all. Hell, people who are fans of his are still waiting for him to come in. Dude's always gone for months on end, and from what I'm hearing, I think you were the one that told me this, Austin. I'm not sure if it was just you, but that with the announcement of CM Punk joining the UFC, holy shit, excuse my language, but that was that kind of moment, if you think about it. But they were also talking about Brock Lesnar, after he's done with WrestleMania 31, that he'd be returning to UFC as well. Any thoughts on that?
Hey, I think Brock's going to be doing a little bit more working if he's in UFC. He doesn't get away. I don't think he's going to get away with too many things by just coming and going when he pleases if he goes back to UFC. There's going to be a lot of training and tech, which I'm sure he's training his butt off still to this day. But he's a beast anytime, anywhere, wherever he goes. But I think it'll be interesting maybe to see down the line. I think probably one of the coolest things of all time to eventually see CM Punk and Brock Lesnar face off in a UFC ring.
That's what the most people are wondering if they were going to actually get to see is a CM Punk Brock Lesnar match like they had for SummerSlam in 2013, which was an amazing match. Amazing match. And, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about Punk? I mean, his controversial podcast with Cabana got people talking, and you and I talked about this last week, Austin, that as far as the McMahon podcast with Steve Austin, that I wondered how much of that podcast was 100% real and how much of it was not. Well, I believe Punk, he said it best. I really believe when it came to the issues about Punk, all McMahon was doing damage control. That's it. When it came to anything else, with Savage, Undertaker, and all that, that was really McMahon. Whereas Punk, he had to kind of tread lightly, if that makes sense. And that's what I believe. If I'm wrong, well, I'm not. I've been wrong before.
Well, I think CM Punk is so smart because he's one of those guys that are he's quiet, but at the same time he has a lot that's going on. I mean, when I say he's quiet, I mean he doesn't let too many people in on what his plans are. And I think he knew he had to know exactly what his plans were because within that week he knew. I mean, right after that Colt Cabana podcast, he knew that the world was gonna, the light of fire under him again, and everything's gonna be, really just happening for him. So in that week alone, he opened up his first pro wrestling tee store, which got a lot of attention. And then
he broke that
later,
website.
UFC announcement.
He broke that website. Punk's sales on his shirts completely shut down that damn website for like maybe hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
because that's what happened when they did the
week,
podcast. They shut down the entire website. You couldn't hear anything for hours until they finally uploaded it on YouTube.
Yeah, and within that next week, he was actually at UFC. Joe Rogan and him, an interview that said that basically broke the internet because nobody expected it to happen. And this soon it happened. And when 2015, we're gonna be seeing CM Punk in that octagon, which is gonna be the most interesting thing I've ever witnessed in UFC for quite some time. Well, with an exception of Ronda Rousey, she is the woman. She's the best.
You like her as much as you like Karma, huh?
Amen. Ronda Rousey is a different species.
True.
He is a whole different animal.
This is going to be interesting because I think that we all know Punk's a good athlete. We all know that he's going to train hard, but
hey, you know what? I don't mean to interrupt you there, Nate, but we do have another caller. And Austin, I would pay close attention to this caller if I were you. He is your opponent coming up this Thursday. How you doing, Oscar?
Yeah, I'm all right. How you doing?
Oscar, how you doing?
I'm fine. I hope you're doing well because you're not going to have a Merry Christmas, my man.
Yeah, Merry Christmas indeed. I'm fine on the dime.
You're fine on the dime?
Yes, exactly. How my rap skills are mean you're going to have a fantastic contest this Wednesday night on Thursday night. On Thursday on Notchmon's radio show, and you know as well as I do. I mean, obviously, I have the rap skills here, and Nate knows it. Felix knows it.
Let me show you how quick your rap skills are. Fine is F-I-N-E and dime is D-I-M-E. So you need to go get you a rhyming dictionary if you can't even stand the chance of not getting laughed at Thursday.
Well, I see you.
It's going to be fun, folks. Let me just say that.
Okay. All right, he's finding the dime, y'all. Austin against Oscar. This coming Thursday. Just want to comment quick on what y'all talking about. Now, Brock Lesnar and Ken Shamrock have both proven that you can go from UFC and be successful in WWE. Both of them do pretty good work in the WWE arena. But my question is, can CM Punk and then it's rumored Alberto Del Rio is supposed to follow in his footsteps but try to go over to UFC? Can they make a successful run over in UFC as WWE competitors?
I think so. Anybody care to make a comment?
I think it's going to be interesting because you talk about a guy like Brock. I mean, Brock was just so much more physically powerful than a lot of those guys in the UFC. Plus, he had that wrestling background. Whereas Punk is going to be a hard worker, but he's going to be in there with dudes that have given their whole life to this particular aspect of mixed martial arts. And at 36, I think God bless him for trying, but I think even like a guy outside of the top 20 could be tough for him.
Just to find it. Come on.
Okay. What about you, Austin? What do you think, man?
Okay.
What about the Holmes situation?
Well, yeah. I mean, based off what Oscar, the point he made. I mean, do you feel that if Punk he obviously made the transition over, and maybe Del Rio as well, do you think they could be as successful as Shamrock and Lesnar? I mean,
I don't know. I think to each their own. You never know until they actually start to get back in the battle. I know Alberto Del Rio, before even heading into professional wrestling, he was doing MMA for quite some time. So I know...
Go ahead.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was saying, before Alberto went to professional wrestling, he was involved in MMA quite extensively. And he, I think, if anybody would go into UFC and be successful, right now, I think I would have my money on Alberto. But for CM Punk, I'm not too sure. I have to see his first fight and see exactly what he's made of in an octagon.
True.
Because an octagon and a squared circle are two totally different things.
Very true. And Oscar, I got to ask you, pal, how is the traveling going? You guys did a lot of traveling. You guys still up northeast?
Yeah, we're still in New York, and we're going to be here most Christmas.
Okay. You guys give us an update on what's been going on with the Oscar and Dreamy Mimi travel. I guess anyway, it's travel circus, but craziness, but madness.
You'll get all the updates you want on Not Your Mama's radio show Thursday.
All righty, man. You missed out on a great show. I don't know if you were able to hear. We had Jacques on the show.
Nah, that's what I was calling in. I couldn't hear. I was calling in.
Okay. Well, hopefully maybe in 2015 we can get him on your show, too.
Coming over to Not Your Mama's radio show this Thursday.
All right.
I'm going to put you on the map with my rap, Oscar.
the map with you.
Oh, my God, folks, you don't want to miss Not Your Mama's radio show this Thursday night. We've got some special guests coming. Pipebomb Radio is invading their show, and we got a battle rap to boot. It's going to be fun. You don't want to miss it. Oscar, we wish you and me... Oh, we lost him. We wish you and Mimi the best on your trips, and we'll talk to you on Thursday, pal. But we lost Oscar, so... Nonetheless, great guest calling in, or callers, I should say. Great guest tonight. Overall, good show. Great show. Continuing on with our greatness next week and all the way through to 2014. And if all the stars align, and Austin and I have been working on the idea of kicking off 2015 with such a bang that nobody will see it coming. And if it goes right and everything, the stars align, it will happen. I'm not going to even reveal who we're talking about just yet. But Austin, he should have a clue. So, nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring this to a close now. Austin, what you got to plug, man? I know you've been doing all kinds of projects. Talk about your graphic design page.
You know, actually, before that, this past weekend I had quite the experience with traveling in professional wrestling, NWA.
Oh, yes,
with a great group of people. Basically, there's a running gag, I guess you would say, on the road, and for the NWA at least, that's been happening at least this past week, 2 nights in a row. Wrestlers threw their opponent into the Pipebomb Radio poster within a match. For some reason, I don't know what happened. I guess they were all in cahoots. But 2 nights in a row, in NWA Bayou Independent Wrestling in Monroe, Louisiana, former guest on Pipebomb Radio, John Saxon, threw his opponent, Steve Anthony, King of the 450, one of the best in the world, into the Pipebomb Radio poster. I mean, this is a pretty big poster if you've ever seen it. And he threw it into it and crushed it. And at least it was salvaged for the next night where former guest on Pipebomb Radio, Houston Carson, attempted to throw Matt Justice into the Pipebomb Radio poster. But instead, Houston was the guy that got the bad end of the stick, I guess, and the sharp end of the stick, and was thrown into the Pipebomb Radio poster. And I got to say, with all those legends on it, it must have really been a kick in the butt.
All right, well, tell us about your graphic design thing, because, folks, if you don't know, now you know. It's kicking off. It's taken off pretty well. He does good work, and he's got a lot of big names that are requesting his work. The one and only Mr. Sonny Ono, the inventor of the selfie.
Yes,
selfies were cool when he made them, because he made them in the 90s, before it all became cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sonny Ono gets 137% of the credit in making being the innovator of the selfies, and he is, because there's footage of it. I don't think anybody else has done it before, especially on a cell phone, taking pictures of themselves, especially with guys like Ultimo Dragon by his side. I mean, Sonny's the best. But besides that, every single pixel, I'm not even kidding, every single pixel is made with beauty on Austin James graphic design. It's not a joke. It's not whatever legitimate. The opposite legitimate. It's totally amazing graphic design you can ever, feast your eyes on. It really is. And just find me on Austin James Graphic Design, Facebook.com, and I'll set you up with a good deal. Even around the Christmas holidays. I'm a nice guy.
He's a nice guy? I didn't know that. See, don't let people get fooled by this. Austin says he's a nice guy, but he might be Ebenezer Scrooge too. He might be Ebenezer Scrooge. You never know. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nate give you the floor, sir. What you got doing? What you got? Any kind of projects you're doing? Your podcast? Anything you want to plug? Fire away.
Yes, the Kings of Sport is a podcast that you can listen to every week. You can find it on iTunes and Stitcher. It's my tag team partner, Marcus Vanderberg, and myself, and every week we talk about sports and pro wrestling and politics and pop culture and all sorts of crazy stuff. So, again, you can find that on iTunes, Stitcher, and check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/The Kings of Sport. So that's pretty much all I got, man. Other than that, and working and getting ready to listen to Austin lose this rap battle on Thursday night. That's about it.
Nate, you better be there, mate. It's going to be off the chain.
No. You should have said, Nate, you better be there, mate. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
That's what I said. You stole my line.
I did. See, but I may have actually taught you a line, too. You never know. That being said, tune in to this Thursday night's Nacho Mama's radio show as they have their season finale. They're bringing on two good guests. Their Pipebomb radio tag team is going to invade their show. And Austin, don't make us look bad now. You're going to do a battle rap with the legendary Oscar of the Men on a Mission. Got to carry the ball for Pipebomb radio, man.
What do you mean look bad? I'm a nice guy. Do you honestly expect me to fail? Really?
I don't know.
If it's Pipebomb radio, I'm going to go there and make an explosion. Whatever on the explosion, I don't know. But we're going to have to find something that's going to work on Thursday night when me and Oscar go toe-to-toe over the phone.
There you go. There you go.
You know what this is going to be? You know what this is going to be like, Felix?
What's that?
This is going to be like CM Punk going into the UFC and his first fight is John Jones.
My God.
That's the type of mismatch we're talking about right now.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another great Pipebomb radio show in the books. The legendary Jacques Rougeau. Such an honor. We get another great legend back next week, Kevin Von Erich. As we get closer and closer to the Christmas holidays, hopefully you all did all your Christmas shopping. And for you Scrooges out there, open up that wallet. Anyways, on behalf of Austin and Nate, welcome back, Nate. We can keep charging on into the future. I will close. Happy holidays, and keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Good night, guys.
Hey.
From Montreal to Memphis, parlez-vous français? Tell all the girls the Rougeau's on their way. Don't call us pretty boys, we're not a musclehead. We hate that long hair look, we like that freckly look instead. We don't